Welcome everyone to another week of our continuing study of the weekly Haftara. This week we have the great zchus of reading Parshas Behar and Bechukotai. As we've seen in the past, the general rule is, except for Achreinos Kedoshim, the general rule is in a double parsha, we read the Haftara of the second of the parshos, and that means we're going to read from Yirmiyahu, Ted Zayin, really Yud Zayin. That's going to be this week's Haftara. And when you come to Haftara like this, Yirmiyahu, it's from the Pirkei Tochacha. Your feeling is kind of a negative one. It's hard to get the theme sometimes. There is no real narrative. And it's a struggle in this week's Parsha, in this week's Haftara, and we should admit it. The Haftara itself is very, very nuanced, meaning it sort of bounces between Tochacha, or it bounces between very hopeful ideas, and then, horrible criticisms of us, which is sort of who we are. And so if we start where we normally do, which is why the Haftara? What's the connection between the Parsha and the Haftara? So let's assume for a second, even though I think we can find connections to Behar, let's assume it's really the Haftara for Bechukotai. Bechukotai, of course, is dominated by the Tochacha. There are two Tochachot in the Torah. Bechukotai is one of them. But even before you get there, the sense you get in the Parsha itself is, it's our choice, right? It says the Torah, Im bechukotai telechu, vet mitzvotai tishmeru va'asitem otam, right? V'natati gishmechem beitam. If you choose to follow HaKadosh Baruch Hu, then all these good things will happen. And it's really pleasant to read about them. It's nice to listen to the Torah reading when HaKadosh Baruch Hu describes good things that will happen to us. And it's even better when we experience them, right? That's the best thing of all. And then the reverse, a few psukim later. V'im lo tishmu li, v'lo ta'asu eid kol ha'mitzvot ha'ela, v'im b'chukotai timasu, v'im et mishpatai tigal nafshechem livilti asot et kol mishpatai lahafrechem et brisi, af ani esazot lachem, and the tochacha. And many psukim of criticism and threats, really. And it's hard to read them, and God forbid, it's even harder when we experience them. Sometimes I think, I remember my wife told me once that it only happens in Israel, right? A family came to shul in Efrat. They are Chilonim, but obviously Chilonim in Israel, read and speak a fluent Hebrew. And so they're listening to the Parsha in Bechukotai, and they're listening to the Tochacha, and they walked out, right? Some of the psukim are hard. Right? Killing, plagues, and massacres. $10 women are going to be able to bake bread in the same oven, and people won't be... It's horrible. It's hard to listen to. And these people took the Kriyas HaTorah seriously. And they left shul because it bothered them. Okay? That's the sense that we get. And the sense we get, because it's true, is that it's up to us. If we choose HaKadosh Baruch Hu, good things happen to us. If, God forbid, we choose otherwise, bad things happen to us. And that's really at the core of our Haftarah. Says the Navi in Perek Yud Zayin, says Yirmiyahu, Ka amar Adonai, Orur hagever sheivtach ba'adam v'sam basar zira'o, umin Adonai yasur libo. Right? The exact opposite of Baruch hagever, Orur hagever. Who does he sheivtach ba'adam? Right? He doesn't have bitachon b'Hashem, he has bitachon ba'adam. This person is cursed. V'hayah, says the pasuk, Ka'arar ba'arava v'lo yuek yavotov. It's like a bush in the desert, and nothing good happens to it. V'shachan chayarim ba'midbar, and it's sitting in some desolate, sun-baked place in the desert. Eretz milecha v'lo teshev. Nothing can grow there. No one lives there. On the other hand, Baruch hagever asher yivtach b'Adonai v'yad miftacho. Right? Blessed is the person who puts his trust or his faith or his confidence in HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and then God is with him. And then the pasuk that it sounds so familiar, because it is. Vaya ke'etz shatul al mayim Val yuval yishalach sharashav v'lo yireh ki yavol chom. You're like a tree that's planted in a stream, right? And therefore, since you're in a stream, it takes deep roots in the ground, and the heat doesn't bother it because it's in a stream. V'ya'aleu ranan, and it's always refreshed. Ubishnat batzoret lo yidag. It's not worried about living in a year of non-rain. V'lo yomish me'asod peri. It never stops giving fruit because it's planted in a stream, right? It's our choice. We can choose to trust in man who's ephemeral, man who's alive today and not alive tomorrow, or we can choose to trust in HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So this series of psukim that I just read to you sort of sounds familiar to us from a number of places. The first is the very opening, the first parak of Tehillim, right? Ashrei ha'ish asher lo halach batzat rishonim uvdar chatoim lo amod moshav la'isim lo yashav, right? Praiseworthy is a person who never sinned, who follows HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Ki'im b'torat Adonai chavtzo b'torato yageh yomam v'layla. He right, he follows HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And then our pasuk, v'ya ke'etz shatul al pal gemayim asher piryo yitein bi'ito v'aleu lo yibol v'chol asher yaseh yatzliach. Right? If you follow HaKadosh Baruch Hu, you'll be like a tree that's planted in a stream, and your leaves will never wither, and only good things will happen to you. It said, lo keina rishayim. Not like that is the Rishayim, right? So I don't know, and I'm not going to speculate. David HaMelech obviously came before Yirmiyahu. Did Yirmiyahu, copy the idea or copy the pasuk from Tehillim? It's certainly the idea is one. It's a very pastoral, very beautiful idea, right? Rain and trees, and that's the idea of an oasis in the desert. It speaks to us as opposed to some bush, in the baking sun in the middle of the desert with no shade and nothing grows there. These are visions that speak to us. There's another place where the same pasuk is quoted. My friend Rabbi Gideon Rothstein pointed this out in the end of the third parak of Pirkei Avos, a famous Mishnah. Hu haya omer kol shechachmato miruba mima'asav l'mahu domeh. Right? If your intelligence is greater than your actions, meaning you don't put your actions into effect, right? You have these great ideas, but you don't actually carry them out. You're compared to a tree that has very heavy, very big leaves, but very, very weak roots. When the wind comes, it blows such a tree over because it's heavy on top and light on the bottom. Shenemar, our pasuk. That's the bad thing. Aval, kol shema'asav mirubin. If you have really, really good deeds, your deeds exceed your intelligence. Lumahu doman, not surprisingly. Lilan shanafaf muatim. You don't have great branches on your tree, but visharshav mirubin. But your roots have taken real firm grasp of the earth. Shafilu kol haruchot shebaolam baot v'noshvot bo. Right, a hurricane comes. Ein mizizin atomim kama. It's not going to uproot the tree because it has deep roots. Shenemar, our pasuk. Etc. Okay, so we see at least two places, and there are many more, at least in my mind, where the psukim from Yirmiyahu are quoted, and they're quoted in popular contexts. Okay, now, we started with, Baruch HaGever Asher Yivtach B'Hashem, the idea of bitachon, and Arur HaGever Asher Yivtach Ba'Adam, right? So bitachon is a big deal, and it's really the dominant theme in our Haftara. But what does it mean? Right? When we say, well, there's the colloquial meaning, there's the general meaning, and then there might be something more. I think when a person says, X is sick, but I have bitachon, right? What he means is, I believe that God is going to cure X. I believe that the bad thing that's happening now is not really going to happen. I have confidence in HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Now, it's great to have confidence in HaKadosh Baruch Hu. We all have confidence in HaKadosh Baruch Hu. But I don't think that necessarily translates into X getting better. it's a little simplistic to say, okay, X is ill, but I'm going to daven for him, and God is going to definitely listen to me. Why? The facts don't bear it out. Sometimes X passes away, God forbid. But it happens. Sometimes kids pass away. There are bad things in the world. How could we be so confident if we have bitachon, everything is going to be fixed? Right? It's sad, but it's the fact. So it may just be my view, but I'm confident in it because in this case, I happen to know that the Chazon Ish agrees with me. Okay? The Chazon Ish, in a very, very famous passage in his Sefer Emunah Bitachon, he describes bitachon in a much more sophisticated, grown-up way. The Chazon Ish says, look, bad things happen all the time, right? That's not what it means. To have bitachon doesn't mean to have confidence in HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And I'll read the line to you, just one line from the Chazon Ish. He says, Aval, inyan habitachon hu ha'imun she'ein mikra ba'olam. Bitachon means there are no coincidences, there are no accidents in the world. V'chol ha'na'asa tachat ha'shemesh hakol b'hachraza me'ito yitbarach. Anything that happens in this world is happening because HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants it to happen. Hurricanes, tsunamis, earthquakes, corona, whatever it is, says the Chazon Ish, it happens intentionally. It's not an accident. It doesn't happen by accident. It happens intentionally. That's what I'm supposed to believe. Now, how does it happen that way? How does it work? So says the Navi, well, one second, even before we get there. It's sort of like the distinction between trust and confidence, right? Bitachon doesn't mean I have confidence that God's going to fix it. I have trust that if it happens, it's going to happen because God wills it to happen and not by accident. And that's enough. And that's the core message of our Haftara. Our bitachon in HaKadosh Baruch Hu is not result-oriented. Hashem uzi uma'uzi u'menusi biyom sarah. Biyom sarah, God is reliable and is going to support me biyom sarah, when bad things happen. But it's not what we want. But it's the fact, bad things happen. It's the mitzius. It's what we experience in the world. Anyone can love HaKadosh Baruch Hu when his life is perfect, right? The question is, do you love HaKadosh Baruch Hu? Do you have confidence in HaKadosh Baruch Hu? Do you have trust in HaKadosh Baruch Hu when things are not perfect, when things are difficult, right? Says the Navi, going forward, Ani Hashem choker leiv bochen klayot, right? I am God who knows your thoughts and sees and knows your feelings. And I will reward people, right, according to their efforts. Kifri ma'alav. Obviously, it's hard to understand this pasuk. What does it mean that we get what we deserve, right? So if we believe in HaKadosh Baruch Hu, we have to believe in this pasuk, one way or the other. Maybe I get rewarded, maybe later, maybe in Olam Haba, maybe my kids, maybe my grandchildren. Somehow HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, it's going to work out. We will be rewarded for what we do, and likewise, we'll be punished for what we do. The answer to Tzadik V'Ralo and Rasha V'Tovlo will be obvious, says HaKadosh Baruch Hu, right? Latei Le'ish Kidrachav Kifim Alav. Everybody will get eventually what they deserve. It has to be. Our bitachon in God will be rewarded. That's the fact. And then we come finally to the end of our Haftara. The last two psukim, and they're fascinating psukim. First says the Navi, Mikveh Yisrael Hashem kol ozvecha yevoshu, right? Mikveh Hashem. So Mikveh Yisrael Hashem, meaning that there's two understandings of the word mikvah. Mikvah is, a pool of water, but also Mikveh Yisrael Hashem, meaning being surrounded by HaKadosh Baruch Hu, living life in His presence. Kol ozvecha yevoshu, v'surai ba'aretz yikatevu, ki azvu mekarmayim chayim el Hashem. Right? What does it mean? We hope, our hope will be in God. If we leave God, if we kol ozvecha yevoshu, they'll be put to shame, right? However, v'surai ba'aretz yikatevu, those who turn away from HaKadosh Baruch Hu in the land, they'll be doomed. Why? Ki azvu mikor mayim chayim et Hashem. They didn't just leave God; they left the fountain of all living waters. They left the greatness of God. They left the presence of God. Right? Mikveh Yisrael Hashem. Why? Ki azvu mikor mayim chayim. If you leave the mikveh, you leave HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Right? So mikveh can be understood literally or figuratively. To be enveloped by God, to be loved by God, to live life in God's presence. That's the goal. That's what we want. And because everything in our Haftara is so complicated, so is this pasuk. And it takes time, but we have to parse it. And then the last pasuk. And here it's interesting, because when you open it, when you look in the Haftara, so it's the last pasuk of the Haftara. When you open it, Tanakh, it doesn't belong to this nevuah of Yirmiyahu. It's the first pasuk of the next paragraph. It's the first pasuk of the continuation. And the pasuk is, Rifa'eni Hashem ve'erafei, Hoshieni ve'ivasheya, ki tehilati ata. Right? It sounds familiar to us because it's exactly like the bracha of Rifa'enu in Shemona Esrei, except in Shemona Esrei, the Chachmei HaMasorah changed the singular Rifa'eni to the plural Rifa'enu, which fits in Shemona Esrei, where all our requests are plural. But here it's exceptionally personal. Rifa'eni Hashem, cure me, ve'erafei, and I will be cured. Hoshieni, help me, ve'ivashe, and I will be helped. Ki tehilati ata, because you're my hope. So the obvious question is, Rifa'eni Hashem, okay, ve'erafei. Wait, you're just repeating yourself. If God cures me, then by definition I'll be cured. So what does it mean? So it turns out like the previous pasuk, right? There's the literal understanding of Rifa'eni, cure me, but there's the broader understanding in the context of our nevuah. Rifa'eni means bring me close, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Make me feel your presence, right? It's not just a tautology. What does it mean if you heal me, I'll be healed? It's a deal that we're making with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. It's not literal. Rifa'enu means, I want the spirit of HaKadosh Baruch Hu to rest on me. I want to live my life on HaKadosh Baruch Hu's presence. Then it makes complete sense. If you do your part, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and you reveal yourself to me, and you make me know that you love me, and that I'm living my life in your presence, and that you're surrounding me, you're a mikvah, you're all these good things to me, then I will live my life as if I'm in your presence. If you help me, ve'ivasheya, I will live my life as if you help me. It's a conscious decision on my part. Why? Ki tehilati ata, because you're my savior, because you're my salvation. Or, in the theme of our Haftarah, because I have bitachon. Yashikach, that's it for today. Everybody have a great, great Shabbos, and see you, God willing, next week. Shabbat Shalom.